Guys, I'm doing the military quarter now, and I just want to give a heads up that there's a lot of information, so I'm going to try to explain things as it's going on versus the way I've been explaining it before pulling, and then you can see what's going on. So we're going to start with these Death Knights. Death Knights have an AoE fear that hits 5 people. They can also put a curse up that reduces healing by 100%, and that needs to be decursed immediately. They also have the ability to raise dead, which is a typical summon. Let's see if I can try and get cursed. And then you'll see this guy has Hysteria on it. I don't believe that that is in the classic version. This is a new thing. And it looks like they're not putting up the curse, but there is a curse that reduces healing by 100% in the classic version, but it's not in this version. In here we've got Necro Knights. Necro Knights do Arcane Explosion, and they also have the ability to blink to a random rate number. And then we've got the Shade of Naxx. The Shades of Naxx can spawn ghosts through a portal, and they also do a Shadow Bolt volley. So you can see they've opened up their portal. Let's see if we can get something to come through. So here are the ghosts that come through. They don't seem to be targetable, so they're like the ghosts in Sunken Temple or in CG that you don't want to get hit by, you just kind of want to get away from them. My guess would be we would probably kill the Shades first before they can even summon these ghosts. And then if you see, I killed them, but the ghosts are still here, so it's going to be exactly like ZG Ghosts, where you just have to run away from them until the portal goes away. While this portal despawns, we'll talk about the Death Knight Captain. Our Death Knight Captains can do Whirlwind, which is damage and knockdown. Nothing surprising or new about that. We also have this Dark Touched Warrior. Dark Touched Warrior has a random threat drop mechanic. So when we come to these groups like this, where we've got Death Knights, Death Knight Captain, and the Dark Touched Warrior, the order that we'll probably kill them in, this will be called the raid, but we'd probably kill the Death Knight first because of the fear, and then the Dark Touched next because of the threat drop mechanic, and then we would do the Captain last because the Captain just does a Whirlwind, which is annoying, but isn't a wiping type thing with all these guys over here. It's not going to fear us. So here you can see the Whirlwind, it's just doing some damage. We've also picked up this Death Chill Servant, and that is a summoned guy. It's just a ghoul, just does damage, auto attack. These bony constructs I don't believe are in the classic version. So I have no information on those, but these skeletal smiths are. The skeletal smiths do Sunder Armor, Disarm, the tank, and they Thunderclap, so they're basically just warriors. Tank and spank, easy enough. When we get in here, we've seen the Death Knight, the Death Knight Captains, the Dark Touched Warrior. There can be Dark Touched or Death Touched Warriors. They do the same thing with the threat drop. It looks like we've gone over everything that we've run into. The next thing that we're going to find before the boss are DK Cavaliers. So Death Knight Cavaliers do an Aura of Agony. It's shadow damage, AoE. Let's see if I can find one up here. I don't think they're up here. the Death Knight Cavaliers and Death Lords, which do the same thing. They do an Aura of Agony, which is a pulsing shadow damage on AoE. They also do a cleave, so they'll target the tank and then cleave nearby, and then they do a death coil, which works the same as a Warlock's death coil. So here's the Cavaliers, they're riding around on their horses. Let me find a Death Lord. I don't see any Death Lords. Those might not be in this version. It might just be in Classic. But the Death Lords do the same thing as the Cavaliers. Let me see if I can get some of the shadow damage going. No, so they're doing different things than they do in Classic. They do AoE shadow and, you know, death coils for fears and cleave. I'm also going to clear this pack so that I can show the positioning for Vesuvius. Vesuvius is the second mind control boss that it is important for the priest to have hit so they can hit their mind controls, because Instructor Vesuvius hits so hard we can't actually have a player tank him. It's going to be a mind controlled character tanking him. So we're going to use these understudies to tank Vesuvius. I don't know what the exact positioning we're going to use is, if we're going to use left or right, or what we're going to do, but a good positioning is to have Vesuvius here so that he's out of line of sight of the range, or he can potentially be out of line of sight of the range, because the range will stand up here and DPS him. And then he does this ability that is called Disrupting Shout, and it hits everyone in line of sight where it does a mana burn, it damages, and it'll stun you all at once. It's line of sightable though, so you'll be damaging, and the DBM will say, oh, you know, Disrupting Shout coming up, so you'll tuck around here and get out of line of sight, and then you won't get hit by it, you won't get mana burned. So when he's down here, he'll be being tanked down here by a Death Knight understudy. So we'll have two Death Knight understudies tanking him, and then we'll have two Death Knight understudies like up here ready to go in and tank. And we'll have the priests here, so they'll be out of line of sight, but they can get the mind control, and then they're pretty even because you just go in an arc to bring them down here to tank, because you have a range on your mind control. And then you would have healers up here who would heal the mind-controlled understudies. And the reason that you have everybody, you know, out of line of sight is that Disrupting Shout. The reason that we have the understudies tank him is because he has an Unbalancing Strike, which we all know what Unbalancing Strike is. We've experienced it before. So I can't show you the mind control, so I can't show you the bars on the understudies. But they have two abilities. They have a Taunt and a Shield Wall. Taunt lasts for 20 seconds and it has a 60-second cooldown. Shield Wall also lasts for 20 seconds and has a 30-second cooldown. So what the priests are going to do is they're going to go in, mind control, they're going to taunt, and they're going to Shield Wall. So for that 20 seconds they'll have both up, they'll have the threat, and then when they are about to drop the threat, the next understudy is going to taunt and Shield Wall. And we're just going to keep doing that. The great thing for one of our particularly special warriors is, as long as the priests are keeping up on their taunts, this is a parse fight. You go all out and you just nuke them down as a melee, because the Disrupting Shout doesn't hurt melee because you guys don't have mana, so it doesn't mana burn you, so it can't hurt you. The range though, we will have to hide for Disrupting Shout. We'll tuck around here, it'll go out, come back out, attack, hide. You get the idea. Let me see if he can do some good damage to me. So what we would do on pull for this is that a off-tank would gather up all of the understudies and bring them back here for the priests. They would mind control from their positioning, and then they would position the two who are tanking first would go in, and the two who are the backup tanks would back them out. All four are going to be mind controlled at the same time. They do need to be healed while they're tanking. They will get nuked, just like our tank would if something goes wrong. So we need to keep them healed because they are the only way for us to tank Vesuvius because he hits so hard. So we'd have an off tank go in and pick up these four, pull them back up here so the priest could get them. And at the same time we would have the main tank go in, he would pop Shield Wall to begin with, and bring Vesuvius over here in position. So you can see the way that I'm positioned have Resuvius positioned right now, the range would be able to see him and the healers would not be in line of sight. So then you would back up here so that you could be healed. So right now, if the healers were at the top of this ramp, they could heal me. The range can hit the boss, but the boss shouldn't be in line of sight of the healers. The positioning will be a little cleaner. Like, I'm gonna try and back him up. You want him just a little, like right there is probably perfect. And then I would just duck out. So I would be in line of sight of healers. Resuvius is out of line of sight of healers. Priests who are mind controlling would be standing against this wall. And then the range would be up here. As long as these priests are on top of their mind controls, on top of their taunts, and on top of their shield walls, and everything's going smoothly, it's really just, it's going to be on the priests whether or not this works out and we are able to down Resuvius. There shouldn't be all that much healing going out. The melee shouldn't be able to pull threat off of the understudy, so they shouldn't need any healing, which is why the melee would be back here behind Resuvius. If somehow they pull threat and they get auto shot, he hits so hard, honestly, you're probably dead. So watch your threat or lose your parse, basically. Okay, let's get moving on. Here's the map for anyone who hasn't seen it. It should be pretty easy not to get lost here, I hope. This wing is pretty straightforward. Okay, so we're gonna go over these weapons. We'll start with the staffs that are right here. The Unholy Staff is like a mage. They do Arcane Explosion, Frost Nova, Polymorph. Treat them like a mage, interrupt if you can, but just nuke them down. Then you've got the Unholy Axe. They do Mortal Strike, Whirlwind, Sweeping Strike, so they are our warriors. And there's one more. Where is it? These Unholy Swords. The Unholy Swords do a Thrash and a Cleave. And as you see, I have a staff and a sword. So whatever the kill order is, it's going to be up to the raid leader. As far as everything in this wing, it's really important to have kill targets marked, and for the DPS to follow the marks. So if you see a skull and you're killing the skull and then it's called to switch to X, make sure you're paying attention to those calls because it's going to be really important in this wing. There's a lot going on. So we've already talked about these shades, open ghost portals, necronites, do stuff. Arcane Explosion and Blink and Frost damage. So there's the Frost Nova. And I killed them before the first ghost appeared, so it didn't spawn them at all. So we're gonna need to nuke those down. And then we've got these Cavaliers, which we've gone over as well. And then nothing new in this pack either. So we've come to Gothic the Harvester. Gothic the Harvester, there's a lot of abilities and a lot of stuff going on to explain. So, the fight is going to be split. So this is the live side that I'm on right now, and then the side with the bones over there is the dead side. We'll need to put most of our melee on the dead side, and then we'll have all of our range, including hunters, over here on the live side. Healers will be split, with priests being preferred for the dead side. For two reasons. I'm going to start this encounter because there's so much going on and it takes time. So the gate closed. So we would get in position and then we would pull, but we would have priests on the dead side because they can shackle the dead, but they can also do AoE heals because there's AoE damage going over on the dead side. So if you see these 3 pedestals, this is where things on the live side are going to spawn. And the trick to this fight is when you kill something on the live side, you will get a dead version pop up on the dead side. So we don't want to nuke all of the live side stuff down too fast because then the dead side would be overrun with ads. So I've got 3 trainees here. And our kill order, as in what's the most dangerous on each side. The live side, the first thing we're going to need to kill are the riders. The second thing we want to kill are the Death Knights. The last thing we would kill are the trainees. When these trainees die, the things that they spawn on the dead side are the most dangerous thing on the dead side because they do an AoE. So even though they're weak over here, we don't want to kill too many. And then so I killed that. He put out that blue lightning soul looking thing, and then it's going to hit that pile, and then you'll see that ghost trainee over there, that spectral trainee. So the spectral trainee does AoE damage, and is really heavy AoE damage, so we're going to want to burn those down really quick. I also killed the Death Knight over here. The Death Knights, as I said, are the second priority. The highest priority on this side of kill, because of how dangerous they are, is the riders. And I haven't gotten a rider yet, but it's literally a dude on a horse. Because he's a rider. On the dead side, the kill order is going to be the trainees first, because they do that AoE, massive AoE damage. Next would be, when you kill the riders on the live side, you get the horse and you get the rider. The horse is not scary, all it does is a war stomp, it just slows your speed. It's going to be the last priority. Okay, here's my rider. So when you kill the rider, after you kill the trainees on the dead side, you're going to kill the riders, then you're going to kill the Death Knights, and then you're going to kill the horses. This fight is extremely important that we are getting marks out so that everyone knows what's being killed first and what the kill order is, but also so that we can call out, don't kill X yet because dead side is too overrun or whatnot. This is a really communication heavy fight. Comms need to be clear the entire time. So these ads go on for 4.5 minutes. After 4.5 minutes, Gothic is going to come down and he's going to come to the live side. And he's going to fight me for a bit, for 15 seconds. And then he would teleport over to the dead side. Ignore this mechanic. This is because I'm a solo player. This will not happen. After 4.5 minutes, he'll come down to the live side. I'll fight him for 15 seconds, and then he'll go over to the dead side. He'll stay over there for 15 seconds, and he'll keep bouncing back and forth. Once... once he hits 30%, he's going to open the gate between the rooms, and then we can all group up and blow them up together. In addition to the kill order being really important, there's also CC that can be going out. So mages can sheep the trainees on the live side. You can use Frost Nova on the trainees and the Death Knights. And you can use a Frostbolt slow on the Death Knight riders. Additionally, we can use Fear on the trainees, and we can use Shackle Undead. So it's been 4.5 minutes, so he came down to fight me, and he's got this stacking debuff, this Harvest Soul, where all stats are reduced by 10%. That continues to stack every... I think it goes out every 12 seconds. see these arcane explosions, so these spectral trainees have to go right away because at level those explosions hurt. So it looks like the Harvest Soul is about every 15 seconds probably on teleport. And it's harder to tell because the gate's open and he's running at me, but if you look now in the chat here, he's been teleporting. So you see that popped up that the central gate opened. If I wasn't a solo player, it would have just opened up and the raid would all collapse down in here to kill him. And then I went through what can be CC'd on the live side. On the dead side, the trainees and the death knights are stunnable, and the riders will be casting a spell that is interruptible. So kicks whatever interrupts you have. And we'll need to keep the death or the rider interrupted as much as possible. So you want to be on top of that with kicks and whatever else you can. It's not stunnable, it's only interruptible, so keep that in mind as well. As far as a list of what all of the ads do, I didn't think it was that important, especially in like a speaking version like this, to go over everything that every ad can do. I thought it was more important to say, here's what the kill order is, and tell people what they could CC and what they could take out of the fight. So again, Sheep trainees, Nova trainees and Death Knights, Fear trainees, Shackle the Death Knights, Frost Trap Riders, and Frostbolt Slow the Riders, and that's on the live side. Dead side, the trainees and the Death Knights are stunnable, and the Riders cast is interruptible. Additionally, the Death Knights on the dead side need to be faced away from the raid because they do cleave damage. Don't see anything new in this group, I don't think. So we're gonna down these. Oh, a silence. That's new. That's not a classic. And then yeah, these are the same things we've been seeing. I mentioned this before in the Spider Wing. I don't see them here. I don't know if they're in Classic, but there's also the potential for Plague Ghouls, which put up a disease, and that frenzy at 50%. Necropolis Acolytes that use Shadow Bolt Volleys and Arcane Explosions that don't have very much health. They should melt pretty fast. And then Plagued Gargoyles that do an Acid Volley that stacks. This is Four Horsemen. Four Horsemen is much like Cthulhu. We have to be really coordinated in our movements and our positioning on all of the bosses to make sure that we're killing them correctly and efficiently and not taking too many stacks. There's a lot that goes on in this fight, and as a solo player it's going to be hard for me to show you everything, but let me go in and see if I don't pull. Okay. So, all of them have a shared abilities of Shield Wall. They'll pop Shield Wall at 50% and 20%, which will greatly reduce the damage that they're going to take. They also have an Enrage timer of 20 minutes, which, hopefully is a really long time, and we shouldn't need it. They also, when they die, are going to summon a spirit of themselves that is going to stand right on top of their body, so we want to make sure that we kill them in the correct position, because positioning is really important for this fight. So the basic premise of this fight is that each of them puts up a debuff that is of their name. So Zeliek would put up Zeliek's debuff, and then we would have to move away from Zeliek before we got too many stacks. Some people say 3 stacks you need to start moving, other people say 6 to 7 stacks you start moving. I'm not sure what the damage is going to look like. But what all of the debuffs do is the same thing, is that more of the singular debuff you get, the more damage you're going to take from a new buff debuff being applied. So if I have 3 from Zeliek and I don't want to take any more damage, I will move on and then start attacking Rivendare. And when I'm attacking him, he's going to be putting his debuff on me. Which Rivendare is Rivendare here, but he's Mograine in Classic. So Rivendare will be Mograine. So I believe they should have the same abilities here so I can show the right thing. But if he doesn't, I'll just go over what Mograine does. So Korthaz was this dude. Korthaz has a meteor, which is exactly like the AQ mobs, where the meteor is going to drop, and the more people that get hit by it, the less damage it's going to do. Blimo does a Void Zone. The Void Zone looks like what Cthulhu's Eye is sitting in. It's just a little black pool on the ground. If you stand in it, you're going to take shadow damage. Zeliek has a Holy Wrath, which is like High Priest of Naxx in Zul'Gurub. It hits one person and then chains until it can't hit anybody else. The good thing about Zeliek's is that it only hits the main tank. So if everybody is out of 5 yards of the main tank, so if you're max ranging the melee, you shouldn't be hit by it. And then he's Baron Rivendare here, but he'll be Mograine in Classic. He does a Righteous Fire, which is fire damage and a stacking debuff. It's a chance on hit, it's not something he casts. I don't know if we want to have tanks have like maybe a little fire resist, or if it's not even worth it. It's probably not even worth it because they all hit kind of hard, especially with their debuffs going up. So 4 Horsemen is special because you need 4 tanks to start it, and then you need 4 off tanks to be ready to go in. So when you start it, they're all gonna need to be pulled to separate corners of the room. And then I'm sure we'll have some kind of diagram of it. So we'll have one boss back here. And the reason for this is the marks have a 60-yard range. So if you're tanking one of them back here and they're putting out their mark, they're not going to hit anybody over by the other bosses. The mark that they're putting out is not line of sightable. It is going out in 60 yards everywhere. It doesn't get line of sighted. So when everyone's in position, when all the bosses are in position, here by the stairs should be about 60 yards away from everything. So if you need to completely drop your debuff, so when we switch tanks, the tanks would come here to drop their debuff, and then when the off tanks need to switch again, the tanks would go in, the off tanks would then come out, and they would drop their stacks. Same thing for healers, same things for range, same thing for everybody. If you need to drop your stacks about here, you should be 60 yards from every boss. The positioning for the 2 bosses in the front is going to be over here and then over there. And then for back here, it's going to be, I would say probably in this cubby over here. I could be wrong, but I think if you're in this cubby over here, the 2 that are back here wouldn't overlap. I think if you came back here by this cubby, that they would overlap. So you'd want to have them over here. So I'm going to engage, and we'll start seeing what these abilities do. I don't know if they spread out like that regularly, or if it's just because I'm a solo player, or if it's just because it's the retail version. I'm going to assume that we're going to need to pick them up and move them for ourselves. So we'll come up here, the tank will grab their thing, and they'll go out. So there's that meteor that's falling. And I've got my marks going up. So I've got these 2 marks. The first cast of it is going to be after 20 seconds, and then after that, it's going to be every 12 seconds. So let me go ahead and kill Korthaz. Korthaz is the one doing the meteor. So now that he's gone, I'm not going to have meteors casting anymore, and in the classic version he would have summoned a ghost. So this version is a bit different. And the thing the ghosts do is the ghosts can still put up the marks. So that's why you want to make sure that they get killed in their own positions, in the right positions, away from everything else. When they're killed in the position, um, their ghosts will be putting up the mark, but no one will be there because they're already dead. We won't be killing them. So they'll be putting up their mark to nobody. So she came over here. This is about where we're going to want to be. That was a really fast, quick, I don't think I went over everything version of these fights. The military ward is a lot of information to take in, and it's just going to take everybody doing a little bit of research to figure out what's going on if you want to know that in depth. If you don't want to go that in depth, if you just want to listen to the calls, like in the order of kills on Gothic, I think that would be okay. Just know that just know what you can CC and what you'd be expected to CC. For Four Horsemen fight, I would suggest watching some videos of it being done live with a full raid group, just because I couldn't show you the whole everything that's going on because it's just me. I can't do the positioning, I can't show you the rotation. So watch a video of the Four Horsemen, understand what's going on, because we're not going to just stay on the one guy the entire time. So if we're on Blumeux and we get 5-6 stacks of their debuff, of her debuff, we want to move on to the next person, so we'll rotate. And you have to know where you're rotating. We'll have to have a rotation for healers, so every healer's not running at the same time. It's stuff that is going to be individualized for each raid and what their comp is and who's running where and who's going where. It's not something that I can just say, this is what it's gonna be, this is what everyone's gonna do. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll get the play quarter up shortly.